Well, all right, everybody, we made it. It's my birthday. I put the phone on silent. I wanted to do this last night. Couldn't get the tranquility here. I rent in Ontario where I'm working, and sometimes that leads to issues. Usually never does, but last night was pretty furious. Not with me, but some of the other tenants here. I have a basement suite, so it's pretty good. But things happen out of your control. I've really wanted to hit this. The Trump administration cried out for this live. This is it. This is what has to be shared. And I want everybody to know that this part 3 of 3 videos, this one is nearly entirely completed from the United States of America, specifically American academia. This is American knowledge, never ever released anywhere. And in fact, globally, much of Canada's Constitution can't be analyzed, supposedly. Well, Americans have myth busted that. While whether it's judiciary, even professors of law in the United States, the legislative branch of the United States, or even the Trump administration, the Americans can't help us, the Canadians. It's outside of all branches' jurisdiction. They don't have the authority to hand that over, as well as even in academic studies, these things are of intellectual property where people have to buy it. I didn't buy it. I got one hint alone, and I tagged my friend Richard Albert, Dr. Richard Albert. He's very modest. He's ranked 25th of the best of the published legal experts in the entirety of the United States. Think about that. 342 million people. He's a genius, and I'm very blessed to have had so much interactions with him and many other scholars. It did not begin with Richard, but my journey crossed Richard's path within a year after I pursued independence, the Alberta Independence Party. About a year after the election, I'd already been introduced to some Republican presidency experts, one on China. That's where it all started for me. And from there, after I took my hiatus from politics at the provincial level, I went straight on into academia, where I've been blessed to be for a mass amount of years. It's taken me all over the world, in fact. So I'm very happy about that. I hope people are on. I can't see, but we're going to go through this part 3 that is super important, again, to the President of the United States, current 47th, Donald J. Trump, and the Trump administration under the Grand Old Party. These folks, everything about GOP is about rule of law, originalism, history, as it's written for the people. That's a fact. Whether people want to believe that or not, that's what it is. That's what it is. They like the lanes. They like the surety of the government. They like the limits of the government. They like small government and the idea that the states are in command and that inside those states, the people have their powers. They believe federal government exists to support the people at a minimum level of interference into their lives. So I'm just going to start there. We're going to go into this that was so important. This is probably one of my biggest videos to date. I have lots of good videos, but this one is intellectual property that's never, ever been showcased ever in any Canadian history, let alone any history worldwide. It's locked away tightly in the United States of America, and thankfully, I get to be the Canadian that gets to unveil it for the first time ever for all of you. Thanks for watching, and it's going to get explosive. I tagged some Americans, obviously Richard, Jonathan I tagged. I should have tagged actually my administrators, because we're going to get into a lot that's going to help them in determining what posts go into Canada, the 51st state. This should iron it out for a lot of people, and this should really identify the coloring box, I call it, of crayons, the different colors of Canadian parties. It's time for people to understand what Canada is, those things not seemingly codified, are in fact codified, and they're some of the oldest evils of the world. Oldest evils of the world, cemented forever and a day in the country known as Canada. And the United States government, current, wants you all to know it. They don't want to cross that line. They can't cross that line. But I don't have a line. I'm a third-class subject, and I can make any line I want. God bless, and enjoy this. I am very proud of this works. We're going to get into it now. Thank you. Okay, folks, so the premise of this video, what was so important to Donald J. Trump and the GOP, I was pressed with a lot of pressure on this. Why? I had a 4-week session of classes. Why didn't I release this? I said, I'm going to do it my own way. And Americans have their way of things. While I'm a third-class subject in Canada, my heart beats here. I was raised here. I think I have a little more understanding as I have my hands in the snow and in the dirt, so to speak. This part 3 video that is just critical for America is all about Canada's monopoly of force and an absolute autocracy. It's part 3. It's Donald J. Trump and GOP's Decolonizing of Canada, highlighting Prime Minister, Premiers, Banking, and Finance. So I'm just going to turn that, I see him off a bit. So I'm going to repeat that again just for everybody. Decolonizing Canada, which is number 1 on their list. That means decolonizing Prime Minister, Premiers, Banking, and Finance. These are their 4 core criticals of the evil of Canada. That should scare everybody right there. Prime Minister, Premiers, Banking, and Finance. Oops, who's that guy? Oh, it's my birthday today. Sorry, everybody. Birthday message this morning. I went the wrong way. Okay. Okay, so Canada's monopoly of force, and Donald J. Trump's there, GOP in the background. We have 2 gold coins. I know it's hard to see. These are absolutely the monarchy enshrined. You see 2 crowns. One crown you all know very well. The other crown is foreign to you. That's 2024, folks. 2024. The other one is 2 maple leaves, and they have 2 crown signatures on them. I know you can't see them. They're 2 specific kings that absolutely represent everything that is Canada, not the United States of America. It's the monopoly of force. Both those crowns, both those king signatures of the time on the 2 maple leaf gold coins, 2015, 2024, does not matter. These 2 crowns represent absolutely Canada, the country's monopoly of force. And Donald J. Trump and the GOP want you to know, who are our mother and fathers? And I got USA there, and to the right I got Canada there. 1636, there's 2 fragments from a gold tablet. I shouldn't say gold, it's brass. A brass tablet in Connecticut, the United States. It's a wheel, and on that wheel there are 13 stars, symboled by, then adjacent, I'm only giving you one fragment of it, 3 other stars. And it's called the Ordinance of Connecticut. That is the father of the United States today. On the opposite end, we have King Louis XIII, 1624, who is absolutely the father of Canada. Now we're going to go to mothers. Same years. There is a coin of Virginia. I shouldn't say that. It's a seal of Virginia, 1708, mother of the United States of America. Who's Canada's mother? 1708. There is King George the First. A very, very important set of crests we're going to go through. And we're going to do this comparison that's never, ever been done in all of Canadian history. The 2 gold coins, the 2 crowns, the 2 king signatures, that is absolutely Canada. These 2 crests, your father, your mother, not the United States of America's mother or father. What does that mean? Canada and USA are not siblings. We are not siblings. Okay? A lot of people get that wrong. We are not siblings. So, here we are, that brass tablet that hangs in Connecticut. It is absolutely there. 1636, one of the oldest recorded, still in place today, pieces of history, United States. This is the father of America. Connecticut Ordinances, 1636, rights based on the individual Puritans. These are the Puritan settlers, part of the growing 13 colonies. One group known as the Puritans. They are the father of USA. Connecticut laws allow the use of reasonable physical force in self-defense and also recognizes the right to bear arms. 1636, a wheel of America with the 13 stars. These are the first 3 stars. Connecticut, the third of the stars. That's how early on in American history this is. This was a defining moment where Britain did not exist, folks. Britain was weak. They existed with limited control over the 13 colonies. It was France in full, near control of what is now Canada, and in full control all the way down to Louisiana, which at that time was greater in mass, size, and scale than the 13 colonies. They were surrounded by the French. Outnumbered, outgunned. Why is 1636 and the Ordinance of Connecticut important? The father of America. Because King Louis the 13th had created a title called Chief Minister in what is now Canada. The inception of Canada. Quebec City, Montreal. And what was that? Well, we're going to get into it. USA responded to the father of Canada, monopoly of force, 10 years prior to the 13 colonies. It was France, and specifically New France, that dominated that space larger than the 13 colonies and all north of the 13 colonies. Louis the 13th, He had a chief minister of New France, which is Canada. First Canada. Chief minister of New France, which is the world's first prime minister. World's first prime minister. He was known as the Red Eminence. Only crown under the prime minister has authority of self-defense or the right to bear arms, meaning when you were in any of those territories as the French, and you can see the French symbol there, none of the subjects could bear arms. You couldn't duel. In fact, you couldn't show any kind of violence, none whatsoever. That was reserved for only those deemed worthy by the crown. First class citizens sworn. This was the proclamation of Louis XIII, and it was done in Quebec and Montreal, and all the way down to Louisiana, French Louisiana, all part of New France. And I see your comment there, Ben, but get ready to get blown away. It's coming, bud. So, Canada's mother, shown by the GOP, and this is huge. It was called the 7-Year War. This is the British and French War. The 13 colonies largely did not participate. Canada's mother is King George I, who was French. Who was French? French-speaking, Latin-speaking, not English-speaking. There's the flag. The Britain you think you know. The Britain you think you know. And this is the difference, Ben, you need to know. And I see you there and I'm glad. Look at the flag. What's that? France and the crown of New Britain. Monopoly of force becomes British law, now to be imposed on the 13 colonies. 1763, I showed you Connecticut ordinances, Father of America, where they said, you have a right to bear arms, you need to protect yourself, your family, and have the right to self-defense. And all of a sudden, there's a new kind of Britain, a new king. We are clearly not siblings, as GOP and Donald J. Trump are presenting. We are, in fact, cousins. Canada versus USA, one shared grandparent. It's coming. We are cousins, not siblings. The mother of USA, Leviticus, and Virginia's Mary Ball Washington, known as the mother of George Washington, 1708 to 1789. And I want to read Six Semper Tyrannis, Virginia ordinances. Thus always to tyrants. In contemporary parlance, it means tyrannical leaders will inevitably be overthrown. The phrase also suggests that bad but justified outcomes should or eventually will befall tyrants. Very important how America distinguished that. Their mother distinguished that, because that would go on to the Wild West and much of the American history that maybe a lot of Americans don't know. This is your mother. This in response to the change of crown after the 7-Year War. A British crown that was not related to anything of America. And if you don't understand Puritans and Leviticus, the War of Independence, understand that they were not beholden to the United Kingdom or Britain. They were breakaways. They weren't having the crown of 1708. 1708 to 1776. Think about all the years in between. That's how long America organized and pressed themselves against the crown. It didn't happen overnight. The War of Independence was brewing for more than 7 decades, folks. And it's all on the monopoly of force. This is critical. Canada's mother, King George I. Sound familiar? In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit? This did not exist in that respect in the United States of America under the Father or Mother of America. Not even close. Leviticus and Puritan, those who ran away from the British Empire, exiles, those persecuted. These did not include Catholics, definitely not Muslims, nobody from any of those realms, no one from the doctrine of discovery, nobody from the, the Spanish doctrine, papal bull doctrine. Whew, glad I got that. So none of those folks represented the United States of America. This is Canada's mother, not United States mother. Take a special look at King George I's crown. After the 7-Year War, what do you see there? France and the lion. Look at it. Blue, red, double cross. Double cross, double speak. 75% crown under Prime Minister, whomever you elect, and all of those they appoint, which are tremendous. This is you. This is nothing remotely close to America. We do not share a father with America. We certainly don't share a mother with America. This is your mother. French and English combined. King George I didn't even speak English. He only spoke Latin and French, the languages of kings. And if I go back to Louis XIII, who has that right corner entirely in his crest and his crown, 100% French, the inventor of Prime Minister, this is the transition of English Prime Minister. First one, all invented in what is now known as Canada. Nowhere else in the world. Besides, of course, the UK. But of course, it was done in Canada nearly 90 years before it was introduced into the UK. And who brought it to the UK? King George I, the French monarch who merged the two kingdoms post the 7-Year War. You see how this wasn't for America? All about capitulating people to the monopoly of force, that you don't have a right to defend yourself. You don't have a right to bear any arms. You will obey the master. They will have the power of enforcement, not you. Not you. Oh, it's really important to really sink this point. I'm going to go back a slide here. Maybe a couple slides. Right here. Now this is the crest and crown of Louis the 13th, 1624, Father of Canada. This is Liberal Party of Canada, currently Justin Trudeau. Okay? One of the first parties of Canada, one of two, and it is Liberal. Liberal. He's Prime Minister. Every Prime Minister we've had, if they're Liberal, this is their crest, this is their crown. Chief Minister of New France. Okay? Your pluralism. Now, let's skip back ahead because I didn't want to miss this point. Look at this new crest, 1708 onward, for everything that is Canada. This is called Liberal Conservative. Do you see that? Blue and red. Liberal conservative. We only have two parties in Canada who've ever held power in the federal system. Liberal or liberal conservative. One with this crown, the other with the other crown. And you believe them to be anything other than 100% for absolute monopoly of force. And it gets much worse. Both these parties enshrined forever this way, codified in laws over New France and absolutely Upper and Lower Canada, British North America Act, all came forward. It's not customary. These proclamations are published. I've just given you the dates. You see the crown. You see the double cross. You see the other crown. You even get the years that they were done. Now, I've already hit this. These are the Executive Acts 1867 to 1949. The Americans, I did make it this far on my own. The Americans, but they showed me some things I did not hit, and they're visual and representative. That everything you're told about the provinces you think you know is wrong. This is by Donald J. Trump and the GOP and American academia. This is an addition. I hit the Executive Powers Act. My publications are clear. But I missed that inception of Prime Minister, of Governor General. Where do those codifications come? I always understood them not to be codified, that they were held secret in Canada's Privy Council chambers and that I would never get access to them. But I was wrong. They're not secret at all. And once you get those from the Louis XIII and George I, you learn what your premiers and absolutely what the provinces and territories are. So there's your Canadian flag. Then you have Ontario. As the Americans say, there is King George I, enshrined, codified, authority, absolutely bound to premier. No premier will be anything in Ontario but under that crown. Newfoundland, Labrador. That's not their original crown and flag. They were independent. But when they joined Confederation, look what happened to them. Half and half. They too under George I. Doesn't matter what premier you get. They're absolutely bound and sworn to that crown codification, that monopoly of power, and of course the autocracy. What do we got there? In fact, every single one. Look, Alberta. What? Quebec. Quebec is codified under Louis XIII. That's why there's civil law. Louis XIII. But every other province, except for what? Who's our holdouts here? New Brunswick and one territory. That's it. Nunavut. Nunavut and only New Brunswick are the only ones to remain visually unrepresentative. But guess what? Even in that, they've all got imposed Executive Powers Acts. I've gone through all of them. They are all pledged to the crown. Every premier is a liar. Every premier is pledged to King Louis XIII and King George I. Absolutely and entirely. They will never be for your independence, your autonomy. It is all a lie. They are duty sworn, duty bound, oath sworn, pledged allegiance, oath of allegiance, oath of secrecy. oath of office. All 100% liars and scammers. GOP and Donald Trump know this. It's the double talk, double speak, double cross. America's always known this. The premiers humiliate themselves thinking Americans don't know. Their academics certainly know. I never ever looked at this. And I should have made a correction here. Two of them are absolutely King Louis represented on their flags. It's that blue and white, combination blue and white, or just the red, white cross, or the lion, or a combination of both of them, as you see. Only two don't visually represent that, but they are all enacted that way, and all title premiers are absolutely codified that way, just like a prime minister. So now we're into financing and banking. This is Canada versus the USA. Oldest logos. Look at that flag there. But I want to hit this. This is the France East India Trading Company. And below it is the UK's East India Trading Company. That's the flag of the East India Trading Company. 13 stripes, red and white. Absolutely what America took for their flag. So the French and English East India Companies both predate the United States of America. But the 13 red stripes, red and white stripes I should have said, would go on to represent the United 13 colonies and share the no barriers to trade and global market access for all of them forevermore. USA and Canada's shared grandparent. We're cousins. We're not siblings, we're cousins. This is American academia. This is the President of the United States. This is the GOP and what they want you to know. East India Company dissolved 1858's Government of India Act. That means UK went on to become Emperor of India. And the Hong Kong Global Opium Trade by the Crown. And the 1876 Indian Act of Canada. Oh my God. Right? There's America. Nope, this is where we say sayonara. We're moving on in global trade, our unity together. We don't recognize your mother or your father. They are not ours. Not since 1636. But we do share this grandparent. 1600 AD, but we'll get into that. This is huge for finance and banking, and Canadians have to wake up. This is paramount by the Trump administration, GOP, what Donald J. Trump wants you all to know. They think that this information should be explosive for Canadians. 1721, First Lord of the Treasury. An absolute monarchy, absolute autocracy. Adopted federalism. And this is a special note. All premiers of the provinces and territory are modeled junior first lords. What are the premiers? The first ministers, right? Takes 10 of them to vote with prime minister, who's first minister, first lord of the treasury. That's the invention of prime minister. And then the junior first lords, which you will find in the UK. All codified, invented for Canada at a time of colonies. The invention of prime minister, absolute authority over all crown finances. Hello, Justin Trudeau, prorogued parliament, finance minister quit, but he goes on to release a whole bunch of budget stuff. No budget review. Makes promises on taxes. absolute authority over currency, absolute authority over budgets, codified 1721, proclamation of the King George I. There's your first Lord of the Treasury, the first created Prime Minister, which would rule in what is now Canada. Created for Canada. This was a position created because of Canada. Answers only to the French king because the king doesn't speak English fluently. George the First. This is why this was created for the Anglos under French rule. Because French was before English. Way before. You can look at 1500. William Shakespeare. First to ever publish in English. Before that, it was all French. All the highest laws, which you're going to see. We're going to start going back, winding the clock. Information no Canadian knows. Just where you come from, what you are. What USA isn't. This is Prime Minister, created for what is now Canada, enshrined in Canada, codified for Canada, 1721. You've never been told this. You're ruled by a lord, a master who cannot be stopped, an effectual king of Canada, consented by the monarch. What's a High Lord Stewart? Even older than Prime Minister, codified 1200 AD. It's the equivalent of Governor General of Canada that was appointed to serve the Prime Minister and reigning monarch. Up until Prime Minister, they served the monarch. There's the oldest painting, 1200 AD. Look at the crown there. Look at that. Complete authority. What's this? Over all courts, all enforcement of crown laws, meaning having reigning authority over the legislative branch, reigning authority over the judicial branch, meaning you don't have an independent judiciary or legislative branch. Underneath the executive, you have High Lord Stewart, known as Governor General of Canada or Governor in Council, that overrides everything according to what is told to them by the Prime Minister. And it was adopted federalism, which is articulated well in your Executive Powers Act, subjects and savages. It's all written there. Every single province. Adopted federalism, lieutenant governors and territorial commissioners in Canada, all codified under the High Lord Stewart proclamation of the Crown of 1200 AD. French, England, all one thing under French law, French language. Absolute authority, absolute monarch. This is you. This is Canada. This is what you think is democracy. It's nothing of. It's old world evil that the Trump administration, Donald J. Trump, want you to know, want you to figure out, you to realize what their ancestors realized more than 200 years ago. Even older, High Lord Treasurer, collects taxes, operate leases of crown lands. Hey, you guys know that term in Canada, don't you? Operate leases of crown's lands. Manage public lands. Oh, big surprise. No private property laws. Shared between Prime Minister and Premiers. Shared between First Lord of the Treasury and Junior First Lords, which are Premiers. Codified. This was created 1126 AD. Is absolutely everything that's codified in Canada. 100% does not exist in the United States of America. What is in the United States of America? Much, much later, literally 750 years later, Comptroller General and Comptroller of State, Federalism USA, 1863. Comptroller General of the United States of America, 100% free trade and an inalienable of the 50 states of the Union. In fact, the first ever Comptroller General came from one of the 50 states on a state bank. The Comptroller General of the United States is subject to checks and balances from Congress, including the power to remove the Comptroller General, because Congress has the authority of money. Legislative authority. Congress has the power to enact legislation that controls agencies, including the Comptroller General, the executive, meaning they can have them removed through impeachment or through law that they pass. Judicial review. There's also Senate review. That's how they get the title of comptroller at the state or at the federal level. Does not matter. Checks and balances. Judicial review. The Supreme Court ruled in Boucher and Sanar that Congress cannot give Comptroller General the power to execute the law. Do you understand that? Enforce or execute the law. They are not the law. They are independent of the judiciary. This is because Congress can remove the Comptroller General if it is dissatisfied with how they are carrying out their duties, meaning they're stealing from you, betraying the fundamental truth of the people, trying to make money off the people or create inflation against the people of the United States. Non-statutory tools. Congress can also use non-statutory tools to influence the comptroller, such, again, as impeachment, removal, and committee subpoenas through the People's Court. District Court of the Peoples, known as grand juries. They have other titles. Any two Americans can do that. And in history, it's been done. Not possible in Canada. Not exactly 180 degrees opposite of how Canada operates entirely. Canadian chartered banks are all crown sworn. There's the very old seal. Defense, imperialism, colonial. These are the words on the seal. There's the lions, the crown, even the French symbol. There's more I can't make out. And I did remember, but now I have lost. They've got years, but it matters not. Crown sworn by oath of allegiance to the monarch, their oath of office, and their oath of secrecy. Absolutely opposite of America, where America is so banned. They say they're not, but any bank in the United States must break their oath that they swore to the United States, betray Congress and the presidency and the people of America, and also must abandon the American judicial process, that they will be audited by the IRS and they will be charged by the judiciary in the United States. As in America, Americans are bound forevermore as citizens, no matter where they go in the world, where they operate, to the people of the United States for the rest of their lives. So, effectively, the United States can never operate at any real meaningful way in banking in Canada. Never, ever. Trump wants you to know that. There below it is the seal of the Federal Reserve. It has one function: to provide opportunity for Americans, and we, the people, don't eat the inflation. The lenders do. They have many checks and balances to ensure that. Canada operates in the American system while smuggling out of Canada our money using their oaths, and they're not accountable to us, but yet USA gives them full access but yet USA is banned entirely from operating in Canada. And of course, because they will restrict overvaluation, it's against the law. Anything that will hurt the American people or have American institutions operating outside of American law will cause them to be charged criminally. Not so in Canada. This is what they want you to know. This is coming trade war. This is coming sanctions and trade embargoes. Folks, I started with more than 200 slides, more than 3 weeks ago now, and I've got it down to just, I believe, these 14, as simplified as I possibly could make it, as visually as I could make it, without going into too much more. I hope it has served you well. This is for you all. Massive critical knowledge imparted by the United States of America in the hopes, they believe in their minds, the GOP and Donald J. Trump, that this will be explosive knowledge. This certainly will wake up every Canadian, every first person, that you will all take this and be like, wow, this is what we have to do. I'm not entirely convinced. I don't think Americans realize just how off Canadians really are, how badly institutionalized they really are. And I hope with this knowledge, I hope it does go out to so many Canadians, so many First Peoples. But all I can do is share the intellectual property that has never been shared to you ever in Canadian history. And this actually goes right across the world. It's not just Canada. There are massive amounts of Europeans and other crown colonials who don't know any of this either. But you are the primary evil in this world. You were codified first, Canada. This was created against all of you as an experiment, a very well-crafted, sick, evil, ingenious, even though it's ugly, it's ingenious craft to fool so many millions of people. And it's been repeated all over the world and in history, showcasing the most grossest abuses of human rights the world has ever seen, the worst atrocities the world's ever seen by this entire system. Monopoly of force, and absolutely the pure autocracy, the crown autocracy. This needs to be shared. You have to share it to everybody. Nobody has ever seen this. Nobody's ever gone through this in Canadian history ever. Because when folks get to that doctorate level, they either must run away and leave Canada and start fresh somewhere else, which many do. Many academics do. Many of our best Canadian minds in my 8 years are all out of Canada. Anyone who got smart on this is long gone, because they are not allowed to break their oath of allegiance, their oath of office, or their oath of secrecy. They can move on, keep their mouth shut, and hope that somebody like myself in the third class will come along and showcase it to all of you. Please do the right thing. Share to everyone you know. People have a right to know. God bless you all, and maybe it's my birthday. Maybe this is the day to do it. Things happen for a reason. Love you all. Stay tuned. 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Mountain Time. I'm going to be on Twitter. I'm doing a debate with a nationalist. I believe this will be a People's Party of Canada person. I'm going to debate statehood versus saving Canada and nationalism. I could sure use some 51st staters. Lots of interest in this. It's already had a reach of more than 22,000, but I know a bulk majority of that are those institutionalized. Those who don't have this information have never been shown this because we're institutionalized, as I was too. A lot of this I knew, a lot of it I didn't know. A lot of this came from a hint from American academia, from the Trump administration. So God bless everybody. This is my gift to all of you. Take it, share it. Knowledge is power. Be the change. Let's use it for good purposes. Bye now.